morning folks, and welcome to another helping of Mr H's Hot Pot. You join myself and Mrs H today, along with the girls, up on Todmorden Moors, which is just outside the town of Bacup, or Bacup as Mr H used to call it, in Lancashire. We're right on the Lancashire-West Yorkshire border, on the Lancashire side, and we've come today to take a look at the last working colliery in Lancashire, which closed in 2014 and is just beyond this lock barrier here and up that rather remote looking road there. This is where mining in Lancashire came to an end in this remote location. The last part we worked was Cliviger, which is the place we're going to go and take a look at now. So without further ado, it's getting rather chilly in this area, so myself, Mrs H and the girls are going to make our way up that long winding pit road. So join us when we reach the colliery. Come on, let's go. Come on, girls. So here we are, folks. We've arrived. We've come down that pit road. It was a fair old long road, that wasn't it, Mrs H?
It was.
You have to feel sorry for all the colliers that will have walked that road in times gone by. So this is the last working pit in Lancashire, which closed in 2014, I believe. Now it's called Hilltop Colliery, and originally it was opened by the NCB in 1948 as a short-term driftman. They worked it for about 20 years and then closed it in 1966, and they moved on. Apparently it was one of the peculiarities of the NCB at the time that they'd open these short-term driftmans, get as much coal out as they could, and then leave them. And this area lay dormant until 1996, when a fella named William Clayton, he bought the licence to this area and he reopened it and started mining one of the driftmans. Now there's a little bit of controversy with modern day history, so I do apologise if anybody out there has worked this mine and knows the true history of it. If you go online you can't find a lot out about the modern day history of it. But what they all do agree on is that Billy Clayton from Groundbridge Colliery Limited, he opened this and he worked it up until his death in 2008. Now the problem Billy had was finding people to work for him. Not because the work's hard, which it was, simply it was very ad hoc. Normally a collier could get about 6 tonne of coal out himself a day, and this coal down here was very hard, so it was very hard going and lads weren't getting paid and you know they needed regular work, so he ended up working it on his own, you know, with a bit of help from his son. So fair play to him, he kept it going. I think his son carried on with it, or his son should I say, Billy and Jimmy, and then it closed in 2014. So we're going to take a little closer look down there now and see what's left. It's hard to imagine that all the Lancashire coalfield, as big as it was, which incorporated parts of Greater Manchester pre-1974, it all comes down to this one last colliery here. So let's take a look at what's left, shall we? So here we are at the gates of Hilltop Colliery. Today they're locked and the old site is dormant, there's nobody on there. It's only a small colliery when you come to look at it, isn't it? You know, normally you sort of expect egg gears and, you know, big buildings and that, and this is just a few porter cabins really surrounding a driftman. Now whether or not the entrance to the driftman has been sealed, I don't know. We're not going to go in because obviously it's all fenced off and you don't know what dangerous stuff's in there, do you really, Mrs H? So we're not going to go in there. But this is the last working pit, or it was the last working pit in the Lancashire coalfield. Now, as I said, fair play to Billy Clayton. He was trying to work the colliery on his own and keep it going, probably to keep, you know, mining in Lancashire going after the Thatcher years, but he was fighting a losing battle. As I said, he couldn't get anybody to work for him, you know, they needed regular work, which who doesn't? So his idea was to try and get some coal cutting machinery down there, you know, before his death in 2008, but that costs money, doesn't it? So that's what it's all down to, money. There's lots of bits of machinery laying about round here. You know, that looks like it was part of a conveyor belt at one time. You know, I mean, I don't know much about drift mining or mining itself. I mean, my father worked down the mines, but apart from what he's told me of how it worked, I don't know how it works. But yeah, this is the last one. It's such a shame, really, to think that it ended in this little area here in this valley. Picturesque, though, and that view there is wonderful. Now, it looks to me like one of the things that they've repurposed an old bit of mining equipment is this lever here. Because I'm almost sure this is what my father described to me. As I said, I've not worked down the mines myself. As a thing for actually putting tension on things, you know, if you was putting roadways in and that. And the idea being this would have a ratchet on it, and you keep turning it like it's trying to do now. They've used it to put a bit of tension on this post. I'm surprised that's not been half-inched and probably in some mining museum somewhere. You never know, do you? Right then, we'll push on and we'll take a walk around the outside of the site now. Yeah. Now, at the height of the NCB era, this colliery employed 101 men, both working 2 driftmans. There was only 1 driftman on this site now. And as I said, the internet, it's very patchy, the history. Some said that Billy Clayton reopened the original NCB driftman, the return one. Others state that he drove his own driftman into the hill face. Behind that gantry there, as you can see, the one that's running down to the ground, that's where the driftman entrance is. So it is still there. It's probably locked and sealed today. I'm surprised there's no security on this site, but it is in the middle of nowhere, really, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You know, it's just remnants of man working. I'm stood at the side of a conveyor belt here. On the roof of one of the porter cabins there's a bit of pit belting that would have run on it, rolled up there. That was probably a new piece that never got used, Mrs H. You know, there's locked porter cabins there that would have formed reception and probably a brew room. I don't know if anybody did work this, if you had a brew room or not. You know, there's a generator there that's lying dormant. And I should imagine it's been like this for 4 years since it closed. There is some rumours online that a little bit of workings have been going on here, but if any coal is being brought up from here now, it's being brought up illegally apparently. But yeah, it's a bit weird to be on this site and realise that this is the last working colliery in the county of Lancashire, albeit a privately owned one. As I say, fair play to Billy Clayton for trying to keep it going. Apparently he was an ex-collier, Mrs H, and he'd worked at Groundbridge Colliery, so he named his company Groundbridge Colliery Limited. You know, try and keep it going. But like all things, he was fighting against the tide, I think. Well, that's it, Mrs H. This is all that's left of the mining heritage of Lancashire. Such a shame. This is a view over the former pit yard. As you can see, lots of old machinery. The pit belting's just over there, near that gantry over there. As you can see beyond that yellow hopper type thing. Looks like they've done a bit of salvage work. There's even some coal still piled up there. I'm surprised they didn't take that out. Over there, whether or not that's poor quality coal or not, I don't know. Yeah, it's all just abandoned now. All quiet.
Rusting away.
Gently rusting in peace. Now we'll try and get round the other side because we might be able to see the entrance gated up to the Driftman from the fence over there. As I say, it's only a little side. But I don't know if it drops down on that other side to a straight drop, so we'll have to see. Another view of the yard from this side of the fence. There's that coal just in front of you, that pile that I was telling you about. Some nutty slack still left in this yard. I should be able to make my way along this little path here where the dogs are, and hopefully I can get round to the front and show you the entrance to the Driftman. Like I said, I don't want to go in there because it just looks like an old scrapyard, to be honest. Back when I was a young Mr H, about 7 or 8, I'd have been all over that. But not when I'm 40 odd. So here we are at what I think is the entrance to this Driftman, and it lays inside the back of that container there. As you can see, there's an hole cut out of it just towards where that boiler stood up with the blue pipe going in, and I can actually see an archway made out of corrugated iron there inside. You won't be able to see it on the camera, unfortunately, because you know, I can't zoom in with this one. But that's the entrance. I should imagine it's gated up and it's all barred. Here's another look over the yard. I'm surprised there's no security on here because although this equipment's probably no good now and it's all broken, you know, there's some scrap value here. I'm surprised nobody's been and started lifting stuff. There's girders and all kinds here. But then again, we are in the middle of nowhere. You know, and there's only one way into this and one way out. Looks like a bit of vandalism there on the office windows. Somebody's put them through, so there has been people here who shouldn't have been. Like I said, I'm not going to go in because I'm not risking it. But yeah, there's the entranceway to the last Driftman in Lancashire. And indeed, the last coal mine in Lancashire. Right, then I'm going to make my way back up to Mrs H now, because she's beyond the gates there, waiting for me. She won't come round this way, because it's a little bit too muddy underfoot. She doesn't want to lose her footing with carrying a little hot pot. So I'll go and join her, and I think we'll wrap this video up from there. Parked just outside the pit gates here, there's two wagons. One is an open top thing that I should imagine they put the coal into. I believe they was getting at height 6 of them out a week, which is pretty good going for such a small man. And then you've this one that's just full of little bits and pieces of machinery, whether or not they were scrapped and waiting to go somewhere, or you know, whether they was waiting to actually be installed or not, I don't know. But they're all just rotten here, left in this little field. A shame, really. But there you go. Obviously, the death of Billy Clayton caused a big problem with this man, and I should imagine his son's just tried to keep it going for the father's sake. But yeah, what'll happen to all this? I don't know. You know, wherever there's mines, usually they have to bring people in to tidy them up properly, you know, and return the land back to what it once was. So I should imagine somebody somewhere, maybe the coal authority, if that's still going, will end up inheriting this land and dealing with it. But there you go. Like I said, just bits that never got installed. What this once was, who knows? As I say, if anybody's worked this mine, you know, they've done a short stint here, I'd love to hear from you, and you can probably tell me a little bit about it. Because as I said, you know, I don't know that much about mining. I'm just here recording this for prosperity. Well folks, this sadly brings us to the end of our little video. It was just a quick little look here at what was the last working colliery here in Lancashire. It's only a little one, and it is part of history, but there we have it. Now, I know one or two of you out there have asked me, you know, is there still any working collieries left in Britain? I can't speak for the rest of Britain, but I can speak for Lancashire and say that sadly there isn't, as you can see behind me. So that's it. Until the next time, from myself and Mrs H, and as always the girls, from a windy and wet Rossendale Valley, it is bye-bye for now.